Дорогие участники,
Dear participants, experts, guests, and organizers, we welcome you to our side event of the National Youth Council, Unlocking the Potential of the CIS Youth in the Decade of Action. And despite the fact that this event is mostly about our cooperation within CIS, we are still joined by representatives of different continents from various corners of the world, which is really great. In the framework of this session, we are going to have two official languages, which is Russian and English. We have provided you with simultaneous interpretation. So select the right language at the bottom of the screen. And if possible, please keep your camera on so that we can see each other. And turn off your mic if you are not taking the floor. If during some of the speeches you have certain questions, you can address them here in the Zoom chat. And if possible, I will be addressing them to the participants on the call, so you use Telegram for that matter. They will be there. And if speakers don't have the time for answering all the questions, then we will ask them to cover your questions later on. So it's time to start. I would like to give the floor for official welcome speech to the chairman of the Youth National Council of Russia and deputy chairman of the CIF Youth Council, Grigory Valerievich Petushkov. Please, over to you. Good afternoon, dear friends. It's a great pleasure to see a lot of familiar faces, and I'm really happy to see some new faces here. Well, in fact, we were supposed to meet in New York on the platform of the ECOSOC event, but I do really hope that next year we will be able to do that. And meanwhile, on behalf of our National Youth Council of Russia, I would like to welcome all the participants to our events, to side events, unlocking the potential of the CIS youth in the decade of action. Today, we're here online in order to place the foundation for our active participation within CIS countries and also to work on the global agenda, to give impetus to our cooperation and to come up with new formats and directions of our activities in order to strengthen youth cooperation on our way to achieving sustainable development goals and Agenda 2030. So the CIF Youth Council was founded in 2015, so we have been operating for over 15 years. And we should say that our National Council working in close cooperation with this CIS Youth Council. And the main purpose of this CIF Youth Council is to foster youth cooperation in the region and also to come up with some consecutive step-by-step implementation of the International Youth Cooperation Strategy for 2021-2030. And of course, we should help our youngsters to form active life stance. We also need to discuss our forthcoming plans and also for 2021, 2022. And of course, we have developed a special plan for a number of events within CIS countries in order to popularize the idea of sustainable development goals. We also want to create a special youth networks within CIS countries where we discuss sustainable development goals and we'll be talking about ways to coordinate our actions in future and consolidate our efforts in this framework. And even though our main focus on CIS countries, it does not necessarily mean that we are not interested in a dialogue with other countries, with other regions and associations. Of course, we are more than willing, and we also want to cooperate with our friends from all over the world against globalization. Of course, all the process should be regarded through the prism of the global approach. I'm really happy that today, in the framework of this side event, we have people from different corners of the world. So we have representatives from almost all the continents, and all together we will be sharing our experience. We will be developing something new and absolutely unique. We cannot underestimate the potential of youngsters because they're changing the world for the better every single day. They are our front runners, and of course, they they have quite a high level of awareness. So they have quite an inclusive and diversified approach to our society. And there, everybody can actually unlock his or her potential. And so several times they have already proven that they can do a lot and make a difference even during very hard times. So they are a source of positive changes. But you cannot change the world on your own, all alone. That is why it's very important to strengthen our cooperation in the region of regions and also within CIS countries. We should accumulate our resources and we should focus on our synergies and also establish the proper dialogue. That's exactly what I want to achieve, and I wish you all the best, dear participants. Thank you very much for your attention, and let's proceed to our discussion. Thank you very much, Grigory Valerievich, for your words. I do really hope that our today's session will be really productive, and of course, it will allow us to keep on working in a fruitful way. We also have Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Azerbaijan, Mr. Intigam Babayev. Intigam Agipovich, please, over to you. Thank you very much, Valeria. Dear friends, dear participants, I'm really glad to welcome you on behalf of the Ministry of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Azerbaijan. I would like to thank National Youth Council of the Russian Federation for your efforts and for your initiative to conduct this side event. Of course, today we have a very important subject on the agenda. I should say that Azerbaijan is very interested in that. I would like to extrapolate a little bit more on the situation in Azerbaijan, especially when it comes to SDGs. Azerbaijan, just like many other countries, joined this agenda also for our plan up to 2030 in order to efficiently implement our common plans. We also created a special coordinating council. You know that it was initiated by the president. It was done specifically for work on SDGs. We have a number of structures there, a number of establishments, and we understand the importance of the role of the young people. It's crucial for SDGs. I would like to highlight that in the framework of SDGs and sustainable development in general, Azerbaijan as a state has already provided two reports on a volunteering basis. Another one is being developed and will be presented for your attention in July this year in the framework of our SDG plan, and also for monitoring, for disseminating information and for raising awareness. We created a special national information portal where we have information about SDGs. And as a result, we have reports. We can see that we are ranked as number 54 out of over 160 countries in terms of our participation, and we are really proud to be in that position. And following the decree of the president in February, we came up with a new development strategy, which is called Azerbaijan 2030 for social and economic development. So this document has a particular importance for us. And of course, it is directly linked to our agenda in the framework of SDGs. We have to admit that young people are the most important resource of our society, and we need to think carefully how we can actually invite and engage them in our common activities. We should say that young people account for 1/4 of the population of our countries. That is why they represent a very important cohort of our community. And of course, we have a certain policy for young people. We understand that they initiate a lot of different actions, and of course, they're active players of different processes. They are engaged in various programs, in various strategies, and of course, in the development of our norms and standards, and of course, implementation of these documents. Successful implementation of the strategy of our strategy for 2015-2025 is all about development of our activities and also implementation of our strategies. We created a special platform for working with our young people in different parts of the country. And also this is something that help us assets and them to unlock their potential. And just to summarize my speech, I should say that as for SDGs, we also stay focused on such issues as employment, as health issues, and so on and so forth. As for the Ministry of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Azerbaijan, together with the United Nations, we are implementing a very important project, which is also directly linked to SDGs and also related to the cooperation with young people. We select some talented young people for some joint work and also for preparing reports, etc. We selected a number of ambassadors over the past 2 years, young ambassadors, and those young ambassadors were directly involved in propaganda and disseminating information about our activities. So they were directly engaged in different, for example, sports activities. They were exposed to a number of webinars, seminars, and some other information-based events. And we have just also launched some other initiative for the forthcoming 2 years. And I should say that we have already demonstrated quite a big interest for that kind of things. And I think that this is quite an interesting thing for them to be ambassador at the United Nations. And in order to also to foster this cooperation further on in order to strengthen the position of different academic circles, etc. We decided to sign a memorandum of the Academy for state governments at the presidential administration. And on the basis of this establishment, we decided to create a special educational center for sustainable development. And of course, we should say that non-governmental organization, youth organization, also have made their contribution in the framework of SDGs, because, for example, National Youth Council of our country has done a lot on that matter, and over the past years, they implemented a big number of projects in order to raise awareness of the youngsters. They engaged a lot of young people in various social and economic activities, and also they worked on a number of SDGs related to our young people, even though that 2020 was a very difficult year for each of us, and a lot of our activities had to be executed online. Still, we kept on working on different specific features and process. And in 2021, we implemented a number of activities, for example, two international projects. In July 2020, we had International Online Conference, Sustainable Development and Youth, and New Opportunities and Challenges. In December 2020, we had an online forum, and there we talked about the role of youngsters in the framework of SDGs. And also we talked about specifically their role. Just like Grigory Vladimirovich said, in the framework of the cooperation, international cooperation, in the second half of this year, we plan to conduct the first forum of CIS countries, where we're talking about sustainable development goals, and Azerbaijan was one of those who initiated this forum. We were very much supported by our National Youth Council, and I do really hope that, depending on the situation, on the pandemic, well, we will see. Of course, we would like to conduct it offline, or probably it's going to be executed in a hybrid version. And since we have plans for a period up to 2030, we should keep on working on that. And we should take advantage of the results that have already been achieved. Pandemic pointed out to the fact that it's very important to work on close cooperation. We should work together with international structures, with non-governmental organizations, and so on and so forth. And I do really hope that in the framework of this event, we will be able to exchange our opinions, our experience, and information. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much, Tigan Bagitovich, for your detailed speech. And now I would like to switch to the English language in order to present our next speaker.
I am very honored that today we have a representative from our partner organization, UN Habitat. Douglas Ruggan, who is a Program Management Officer and Youth and Children Specialist at the Human Rights and Social Inclusion Unit of UN Habitat. And Douglas, I would like you to answer the following questions today. How does UN Habitat work with young people, and what avenues do the CIS youth have for participation? What potential does UN Habitat see in strengthening cooperation with the CIS youth?
Thank you so much, Valeria, and thank you so much, everyone, for inviting me to this really important meeting. I think that our engagement with the CIS has been growing very much over the past 2-3 years, and we're really excited to see how it could grow further. A little bit of history. Our Moscow office was established in 1989. And the project office was, we had an initial office there, then we had a project office in 2019. We've really expanded how the work we're doing, and we've expanded in many. We do the voluntary reviews, which has become a really key component of tracking the SDGs. But one of the other areas that we're really looking at is youth. So the UN Habitat Youth Unit is one of the longest standing youth programs in the UN system. We really focus on building strategies for integrating young people in the cities, increasing cities, the understanding of cities, government, mayors, council, people in general about how to engage youth. And we really work with young people as leaders. We practice a philosophy of what we call youth-led development, which really recognizes, and we know that like, for example, the Youth Council, Russian Youth Council also recognizes that young people are not just leaders of tomorrow. It's not just an aspirational component. It's as well a real-time component. So in this light, we've worked a lot with the National Youth Council of Russia. We signed an agreement at the Kuala Lumpur World Urban Forum. And so again, we're really excited to be able to move this forward. Just to give you kind of some ideas, so how can we engage young people? So for example, one idea is engaging young people in urban planning and in planning. We have a project in Kyrgyzstan, the project we call Block by Block, which is actually the partnership we have with Microsoft, and it utilizes the program called, or the gaming program called Minecraft. And what it allows, it's what we call virtual Lego in a way, but it also allows young people to build what they see as an important, what they see as the public spaces that they want. So what's happened, and it happened in Kyrgyzstan, we've done it in many other different areas. These young people, they build virtually a space, and then we work with planners, architects, and stuff to actually take that virtual space they built and make it into a real space. So that's one area that we've done, and one area specifically we've done in the CIS, and we'd like to expand. We're also looking at creating with a public space toolkit. We have Olga here, who works with our UN as a UN volunteer with us.
I had no idea what I was going to do, but I knew that I wanted to be involved. So the first couple weeks, you know, I would just donate plasma to make.
And lots of people are leading very interesting lives. So anyways, we're looking at creating a public space toolkit, and that will be distributed again so that we can expand upon our input. So it's not just a one-off project, but it's a project that can go across all of the CIS. And lastly, I mean, we have a few things that I want to make sure people are aware of. We have a World Urban Forum coming up in Poland. And we very much want to see anybody here come to that. We're going to have probably a fairly substantive youth assembly during that time. We have a youth assembly every 2 years at the World Urban Forum. The World Urban Forum brings together tens of thousands of people, but many, many young people. So that's a time where we can further establish our relationship, further look at how young people can be involved. And then lastly, I think what we're really looking at is the SDGs, and we will not achieve the SDGs without the partnership of young people. We will not be able to move forward without young people achieving these. So we really encourage young people to become involved. We really encourage those who are supporting the allies of young people to become involved. And yeah, we hope to see you and work with you soon. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Douglas. We look forward to strengthening our cooperation further and engaging more and more young people from the CIS region to take part in the UN Habitat activities. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker today, Vladislav Kaim, who is a member of the United Nations Secretary General's Youth Advisory Group on Climate Change. And Vladislav studied in Russia, and he's from Moldova, one of the CIS countries. So it would be very interesting for us today to hear Vladislav's opinion on the following issues. Как интересы молодежи СНГ могут...
How the interests of CIS youth can be implemented within the frames of the operation of a consultative group, and which tools we can use to attract young people to cooperation, to active participation in climatic agenda of UN and activity of consultative group. Thank you very much, Valeria, for this invitation and for your question. I have already noticed that this format of discussion becomes a good tradition, and it's really great because actually sustainable development goals, in particular climatic change of SDG, represent a complex of targets and goals, and we need to implement lots of transformation in social and economical models in CIS countries to achieve those, even regardless of the fact that a lot of transformations have already been done within the last 30 years, and this process cannot be implemented without the input and contribution of young people, because first of all, this experience should be lived by us, and this experience will considerably impact the quality of our life. Within the frames of the operation of the first consultative group on climate change at the General Secretary of UN, it is also a precedent, the fact that for the first time there was a place for representation of Eastern Europe, CIS countries, and Central Asia, and I'm honored in this case to non-officially represent the region, let's put it like this. And considering the experience that we have already accumulated during our work, I can say that the sphere that, first of all, we need to show ourselves and to show to what extent our input is important, our input on general work in climatic agenda is in bringing practical content in the concept which is known under the term fair, just transition, because within the frames of CIS, there are at least several countries, and within other countries there are also communities, monotowns, settlements, and so on and so forth, which are connected with the spheres of economical and energetical development, which facilitate climatic crisis, and in case it's necessary to implement the scenario which will happen in the increase of the temperature by 1.5 degrees, they will have to go through considerable social and economical transformation, which cover not only climatic targets of SDGs, but many others as well. And here, the role of youth of CIS countries is in representing our prospect to become this regional laboratory of fair, of just transition. And this seems quite vast for me, because best practices, at least at local or regional level, they're quite few, if at all. And for us, for youth of CIS countries, and for those who take a decision at a more adult, so to speak, level, that is actually a sphere which we shouldn't be afraid of, and where it's better to make experiments right now, and with the help of youth, with the participation of youth, to find solutions which later we will be able to provide at international level, and thus make an example within the frames of which we'll be able to show that as to climatic agenda, when we speak about just transition, you can always know that CIS can offer something interesting to your attention. And in conclusion, of my speech at this stage, I would like to turn my issue upside down, because it's important not only how my role helps the youth of CIS, but how CIS youth can further be supported by the result of this work. And it has already been mentioned that there is an idea to uh, arrange the first forum on sustainable development goals of CIS countries, considering the fact that role of CIS should be increased in comparison to the image which was present during the previous years. I believe there will be considerable progress if young people, if work of young people will not be divided from the main work, but the young people should be immediately involved into the agenda, and this agenda should be identified by a specific long-term target, which in turn would cover lots of other sustainable development goals. In my opinion, that can be discussed, of course, but in my opinion, this goal can be as CIS is carbon nuclear union of 2050. That could be a wonderful demonstration of ambitious long-term project which cannot be solved without the current youth, but without the youth of the future. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Vlad, for your constructive and insightful comments. I think it was really interesting, and for sure we as young people will try to somehow deliver these proposals and this information to the Commonwealth, to the people who are the decision makers of the Commonwealth, and we will see what we can do. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our next speaker. Today, we have with us an organizing partner of the United Nations Major Group for Children and Youth, which is also known as UNMGCY, Steve Lee. Steve, are you there? I have a question for you today. How can young people participate in the global agenda, and why? And why do you think CIS youth are currently underrepresented within the UN platform? And what steps do you think can be taken to change this? Over to you.
Thanks so much, Valeria. Thanks so much for having me. Hi, my name is Steve. I'm the organizing partner of the Major Group for Children and Youth, or MGCY. The Major Group for Children and Youth was created back in 1992 by the General Assembly through Agenda 21. When the first conference on sustainable development was being put together to make sure that non-governments, vulnerable voices are guaranteed to have a voice at the decision-making table. So they established 9 major groups, children and youth, women, farmers, indigenous people, and others, to make sure that the vulnerable voices are guaranteed a voice at the seat. Since 1992, we have been involved in various policy processes throughout the UN system, particularly on sustainable development. Today, we're engaged in over 120 different intergovernmental and multilateral policy processes throughout the United Nations, and we're working on ensuring that the future children and youth want is advocated in different policy frameworks. Whether that be on climate change like the Paris Agreement, or Convention on Biological Diversity, or Sendai Framework in Disaster Risk Reduction, the Agenda 2030 on Sustainable Development Goals, et cetera, et cetera. So, why participate in global policy processes? This is a very short intervention speech, so I'll make one primary point. The reason you want to participate in global policy process is to have a voice. I mean, it's as simple as that. If you're not at the table, you will be forgotten and you will be taken advantage of. You have to have a seat at the table. That's how any stakeholder, any voice works. Anyone who's not at the decision-making table will be forgotten and will be taken advantage of. So it's really important that we make sure our voice is heard at the decision-making table with the decision-making power. That also means once you're at the decision-making table, you now have to make quality decision, not just for young people, but for everyone at the table. then you need to actually prepare yourself and you do all the work that's required to be a useful and helpful member of that table to make good decisions for everyone, including children and youth. But you really want to make sure that you have a voice. And this is what I want to talk about next, is that particularly CIS youth and Russian youth are particularly proportionally underrepresented in these policy processes. I don't know about the adults, the actual negotiators and diplomats and others. I'm sure they send their people. But when it comes to young people, civil society, young people participating in these policy processes as children and youth, it's quite rare. The big reason I'm of Korean descent, living in Canada, and a big reason is it's political history. And people, particularly Western organizations, have great a bias towards Russian or Russian speaking or post-Soviet country engagement. They might have disagreements with the governments, but what's the point of discriminating or underrepresenting the children and youth who are living their realities in those countries? So it's really important that groups like myself, the major group for children and youth, ensure that we reach out to CIS youth and Russian-speaking countries to ensure that they can participate, that we have our materials be translated, that we have our materials be accessible to young people, children and youth working in CIS countries to participate in global processes. So we need to do our part. And we also need you to actually engage. I spent the last 5 years working with high school students in mostly extremely rural and northern communities in Canada. And they strongly believe that this global elitist UN crap doesn't mean anything for my life right here in my community. How is this going to make my life and my family's life and my friends' life any better by engaging some building that's in New York? And there's a fair point to that. But as you can see, if that's the reason for no one having a voice at the table, then again, you will be forgotten and be taken advantage of. So it's really important that you consider not everyone here has to be a part of global policy processes. That's not the point, but some people need to do the work of collecting and listening to the voice of young people from the ground and actually effectively advocate that all the way to global policy processes. And Vladislav is doing that excellently on climate work. We met, I think, 3 years ago in person, and then if it wasn't for COVID, we'd be seeing each other again for the ECOSOC Youth Forum. But yeah, anyway, I really hope this kind of gives you an idea of what the reality is, particularly with CIS youth engagement, and gives you some convincing and conviction that there is a reason and purpose in engaging these global, albeit some Western processes. It will remain Western if you don't engage. It's up to you and me to try to turn these into more representative intergovernmental and international organizations for all of us. So please, thank you for engaging the ECOSOC Youth Forum, and please continue to participate in the thematic and regional sessions. Please continue to engage in different policy processes that happen in the UN system. The networking reception that will happen tomorrow evening is going to be a good place to find like-minded people for those policy avenues. You can also visit our website, UNMGCOI, to kind of see what different policy processes there are that you can engage. So thanks so much for having me, and enjoy the ECOSOC Youth Forum.
Thank you so much, Steve, for your inspiring speech. if you haven't convinced some participant, well, for sure you have convinced me. And I found that some of the points that you brought up were really relevant, and I could relate to many things that you mentioned. Thank you. And Итак, да, итак, я бы хотела представить наш...
So I would like to give the floor to our next experts. Today we are joined by the coordinator of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network Youth Division, Arina Loginova. Arina, good afternoon to you. I would like to ask you the following question. So what problems or what needs do young people have, especially when it comes to SDGs within CIS? And from your perspective, what is the potential of CIS youth in the context of SDG implementation? Good afternoon to everyone. I'm really glad that you invited me. So you introduced me as if it was not a youth organization, but something of a higher level. Well, actually, we prepared a presentation, and I would like to share this presentation with you. Am I supposed to share the screen, or you will do that? I got it. So I will do that. Just a second. I do really hope that my screen is visible. Yes, can you see that? I hope so. So my name is Arina Loginova, and I'm coordinator of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network Youth Division in Russia. I'm really glad that you invited me to this forum, and I'm really glad to see each one of you and to actually get acquainted with some new people. I'm more than willing to share our experience and achievements. We prepared our presentation in English, but I will be speaking Russian. So on this slide, you can see the plan of or agenda of something that I would like to discuss. I would like to say a few words about our organization. I would like to tell you when we were founded. We also extrapolate a little bit more on our main challenges. We will also go through some practical aspects. And speaking about also as IS, I would like to talk also necessarily about sustainable development goals. So our organization was organized in 2012 by UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, and the main goal of our organization is to actually unite scientific and technological expertise at the global level in order to develop and implement our SDGs. So Youth Initiative was created in 2015 in order to attract young people to our agenda and also to create sustainable development solutions. So we wanted to provide them with a particular mechanism so that they can implement their project in practice in the framework of our network. Actually, this is something that has already been mentioned by almost everybody during our forum, and our organization is directly involved in these activities. As for our organization, we have 23 national networks, we have 127 countries involved, so we have already developed 530 youth related solutions. We have a lot of volunteers because this is a public organization, so the network is really huge. On this slide you can see our programs and also our projects. We can see we have projects for startups, for the small organizations, for NGOs, also for youth-led organizations. We also have platforms for experience exchange, such as the youth symposium, the Vatican Youth Symposium that was conducted last year. We have opportunities for students. We also have some opportunities for active young people who want to make a local contribution to their society. And also, I would like to say about SDS and youth in Russia. We were opened in 2016 on the basis of the Center for Sustainable Development Research of the Institute of Applied Economic Research of the Russian Presidential Academy of National Economy and Public Administration. We have 23 member organizations. And now let's answer the questions of the forum. So, judging from our observations and analysis of the situation in Russia, the main challenges for NGOs, their also basic needs and the needs of youth organizations in the framework of SDGs. Well, these are the major following aspects. The problem is that few people know about these NGOs. We are trying to attract as many young people to our work as possible, and our audience is not as big as we would like it to be. And of course, we wanted to have it extended. We also have lack of knowledge about SDGs in the regions of Russia. We have some very interesting local initiatives at the regional level, but as a rule, they are not well related to SDGs directly. It means so that they are being implemented right now. But I should say that, for example, waste collections. Yes, we do have such initiative, but they are not linked to SDGs. We also have limited targets auditory, but it's rather a challenge. It's not a problem. And we also have some problems related to promoting our SDGs agenda. At the regions, we want to organize different educational events, but since a certain law was put into effect in Russia, which works as a barrier for us, yes, it poses certain difficulties for our work, quite an obstacle for us. And also in Russia, just speaking about the Russian region, not within all the CIS countries, we don't have that many bachelor courses about, for example, sustainable development and SDGs in Russia. That is why people they cannot actually get a degree or be involved in higher education with a particular focus on SDGs. And now let's switch to our potential. This year around, we working on a Russian overview of youth initiatives, and I should say that we're about to present a very interesting report about this work. Well, actually, during this work, we come up with a number of solutions, and also we have certain informations. And now we want some organizations and NGOs also be involved in this work, and so they should also be there in our reports. And so, based on the form that we have already provided them with, we already received 40 youth leader organizations feedback. So they are either guided by young leaders or they are aimed at working with youngsters with a particular focus on SDGs. And I think that this is quite an achievement for us. We should say that 42 of them, these are non-governmental organizations, and others I mean, the other part is about business, but it also somehow linked to young people. For example, if we talk about fashion industry, accessories, etc., there they use, for example, processed plastic materials, and so they also have an idea about SDGs. Just an example. This is just an effort to show you that there is a certain potential demonstrated by young people. They really stay focused on those issues on SDGs, and I think that even more players can be involved in this process. And here on this graph, you can see information about various SDGs with a particular link to our players. So we can see, for example, SDG number 4, 12, etc. So quite even distribution, but still we can see a slight difference between them. And here is an interesting case study. We just wanted to demonstrate you what kind of organizations were involved in this work. Well, for example, here we have an organization, Wild Camp. This is a youth lead organization. It is led by a young girl, 24 years old, and this organization is involved in the localization of different projects and also international projects in different sanctuaries. Already, they work with 56 national parks in Russia, and I should say that this is quite a big achievement. And moreover, this organization involved different volunteers to mostly young people to help in the maintenance of national parks. So I'm talking about maintenance, monitoring, and some other activities. And this organization works in the framework of SDG 15. That is not it. And just taking advantage of this moment, I would like to share our review of vaccination against COVID-19. Tomorrow, we're about to present our publication. There, you will find information about different types of vaccines. And since COVID-19 is quite a global issue, and this is quite a challenge for young people, we decided to prepare a review in the Russian language about different types of vaccines, about clinical trials. Also, we have some comparative characteristics of vaccine, and also there you will find information about vaccination in general, why it is important to get vaccinated against COVID-19. So we are kindly inviting you to support this initiative, especially in the social media, so that more people might have access to this information. I hope that this presentation will be shared and you will get a link to this review. And just finalizing my presentation, I should say that you can also find us on social media. Here you can see some useful resources from SDSN Youth. And just to recap, I would like to attract the attention of CIS countries to our global network and to the opening of SDSN Youth, because this is actually that very platform that was discussed by previous speakers. And there, young people can really act. They can create projects and implement projects in the framework of SDGs. And at the same time, they can really be heard. This is a platform that brings together young people from over 140 countries. It's true that this is very important. I do believe that in the CIS, it's going to be a really useful. And here is our logo to create a sustainable world for future generation. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you have questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you very much, Irene. It was really interesting to find out more about your activities. So I can see that we are already receiving some questions in our chat, but since we are very short of time, I think that you will can just answer those questions directly and address all those who answer those questions, or they can also be handed over to you later on, and then you will just exchange your opinions, give your take on this or that issue. Today we are also joined by Nelly Rahimov, founder and CIS of Open Schools for Sustainable Development, the coordinator of the Coalition for Sustainable Development of Russia, also known as CSDR. Nelia, today I have the following question for you. What kind of practices you have regarding promoting SDGs, and how do you attract young people within CIS countries? What strategies would be particularly efficient?
Thank you, Valeria. Thank you once again for having me here. And today I would like to speak on behalf of our united civil community. And yes, first of all, last year we have started a coalition of civil society for sustainable development of the country, which is translated as schools. I will provide a link to the chat. We invite everyone and we invite a youth, a Russian representative of youth to join us as well. And also, I'm a recent representative of the um, Council of the Civil Youth Society, which actively works in Geneva at a regional forum of UN on sustainable development. So I have a huge experience on involvement at the global and regional level. And what I would like to say regarding the ways to involve young people and the role of youth, I should say that, of course, first of all, I believe that we need to focus on education because yes, it's wonderful when there are lots of initiatives, when we start acting somehow and so on and so forth. And truly, youth are very active resource. However, I believe that at a fundamental level, we need to ask ourselves a question about education. Irina has already mentioned that we have not enough educational programs and universities, and there is always lack of these programs. And the principles for education for sustainable development declared by UNESCO are not implemented very often. And here we should pay more attention to this. And also, I believe, well, why am I talking about this? Because now I see when young people have lots of initiative, when they have sparks and energy, sometimes I see that in our countries they do not understand the gender inequality problem. Why we do not have this? What we lack as well. And I believe that we need to show to the future generation to explain them that production and sales trading of arms is not good, that armed conflict is not a solution to the problem. And for today, in modern policy, we have lots of processes which actually contradict to the ideals we strive for. And I believe that via education, we can make a fun basement of these values for a younger generation to avoid this in future. Believe me, I think that we have big difference in the communication manner, and with the older generations there is a theory of generations, and I believe that if we work with these values, we'll be able to change the picture of the world in the future. And of course, I totally agree with the speakers who said that we need to involve youth more to the decision-making processes. For today, we many countries we do not have elaborated mechanisms at political level for youth involvement and decision-making processes at local level and national levels. And I truly agree that our region is not properly presented at global international processes. And now we are trying to be involved in these processes at forums of sustainable development. And this month we'll have a civil forum on preparation for G7, and I will represent the coalition there. And that is why I invite young people to be involved in a more active way. And now it's possible for NVSM Youth and MGCY and other organizations. Please get in. Of course, it's better to speak English for these purposes, but actually that is the platform which often gives an opportunity to express yourself, to demonstrate your opinion, and so on and so forth. And of course, volunteer. I think it's a very important tool for today because, well, no matter how much we want to earn money, still volunteering is often really gives us an opportunity to get new experience, to get new knowledge. And when I was young, I did a lot of volunteer work myself, and due to that, I have become what I am. And I believe that now, both at international level, there are lots of opportunities for volunteering, and in CIS countries, I believe that also this direction will be developing. And also, UN offers platforms for this, and I hope you know about the platform UN Volunteers, where you can also practice volunteering online. And these are my basic theses, and I think that in order to involve civil society into our agenda, we need to provide information about sustainable development goals, because this is truly our social contract, as Ban Ki-moon once said when the goals were adopted. And that is the agreement between population and leaders of the country. And of course, we should spread the information about SDGs. And that is something we are trying to do in Open School of Sustainable Development. I believe that here the young people can contribute to that and also provide assistance here and inform population. It's not too late. We have 10 years to go, even though even 1/3 of the period is over. Well, yeah. And I would like, as we have representatives of different states here, I truly believe that we need to support young people. We need to provide them an opportunity to be present at global events, to include them into official delegations, because, well, I can imagine if I was brought to Secretariat in New York when I was young, what kind of spark it would give me for 10 years of volunteer work. And we should understand and properly assess this potential and not to waste time with this. And that is why I call all the states to invest. I believe it's not that much money to invest into the volunteers, to provide them opportunities to be present in different international events, to promote them. And that is also representation of our regional national interests, because there is lack of presentation of our region and it attracts attention. I think that's all I had to say. If you have some more questions or comment, please, I can add. Yes, thank you very much, Nele. That was a very informative speech, and at the end we'll have a session with open discussion, and if anybody has additions or thoughts to share, you'll be able to do this. So, well, now we move on to the next part of our agenda. As Nele has already mentioned, there is such a program as the SDG Youth Ambassadors Program, and this program is being implemented in some countries of CIS. Within the frames of our next unit, we will consider the examples of this program's implementation in Azerbaijan, in Kyrgyzstan, and in the Russian Federation. I will ask questions in 3 stages. So the first round for coordinators of the program of youth ambassadors, Zarifa Zulfugarova, Project Assistant, UNDP Azerbaijan, Project Coordinator of the SDG Youth Azerbaijan program in Azerbaijan. Zarifa, first question to you. Who is implementing the program in your country? What it consists in? How do you make selection? What kind of criteria and what kind of success have you reached for now?
Thanks a lot. Dear Excellencies, dear colleagues, on all the young people from the regions. First of all, we cannot express our feelings that how much happy that we are currently in this platform, and we are sharing the same platform with a lot of young change makers of the region, because despite the fact that we have a lot of opportunities to get represented in international arena, as my colleague Nilly also mentioned, that unfortunately we are kind of lacking that kind of platforms and to come together with the young SDG leaders from the regions. So as you mentioned, my name is Zarifa Zulfugarova. I'm an SDG Youth Ambassadors Coordinator in Azerbaijan. As you know, Azerbaijan is one of the advanced countries who invest into the youth sector a lot, because of the reason we have the 27% of the country citizens are the young people. So in regard to your question, according to our long-term project, which implemented since 2014, the creating new platforms to support active youth engagements in global policy debates. In the framework of these long-term projects, we have a SDG Youth Ambassador initiatives since 2018, and I am also honored to mention that I was one of the alumni of this class. So in regard to selection procedures, the SDG Youth Ambassadors, the 17 SDG Youth Ambassadors are chosen according to the 4-step selection procedure, a very competitive selection procedure on regard to their social activism, on regard to their awareness about SDGs, because these 17 young people are assisting Azerbaijan to support the successful implementation of SDGs within the country, and very importantly within the regions of Azerbaijan, because as you mentioned, we need to raise more and more awareness for all the young people within all the country in order to provide the inclusive approach. And also these young people help to encourage youth participation in obtaining SDGs, contribute the spreading of information about activities realized on local and national levels, and we are helping to preparation of the voluntary national reviews. If you see, I don't know if a lot of young people have information, Azerbaijan is one of the countries who, including this year, for the third time, will represent the volunteer national review to the United Nations voluntarily. And the initiative SDG Youth Ambassador also mentioned in this Vienna report, and we are so happy for that one. We are so happy that these 17 young people within the 2 years had a chair on the table of decision makers. We are among the official delegates and got representation in the UN level. We have a representation for the Climate Youth Summit, UN Youth Climate Summits, and all other levels. And also we are the whole trainings and presentations on the regional levels. And so we have a very good collaboration. As the last summer, we had the cooperative events in the city, in the International Day of the Cities. We have the guests from the SDG Youth Ambassador of the Russia, of the Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan. The SDG Youth leader from all these countries got our guests, came together to the one platform to discuss about the SDGs and how we can create a more sustainable platforms. If it is okay for you, I also would like to mention some other points, if I will not extend my time at your question.
It's 18 hours.
You can make a small comment.
First, within this small comments, I know that we would like to, I actually call all my young friends, rather than to get the much deeper details about our projects, I would like to use this platform as a more collaborative platforms to make some comments and to call all my young people from the regions to work in a more collaborative approach. That I think that despite the fact that, as I mentioned different times, we got a different international representation, also even in the UN level, but as a regional level, we have to, according to also the requirements of the SDG 70, the collaboration, we have to enlarge and enhance the regional collaboration through our maybe the online events, maybe through the monthly or annual meetings, because we have some regional and common issues, including the environmental issues, including to the youth capacities. And I would like to see the more regional youth engagement to the international level, and I would like to see this kind of events much faster, and in order to create more sustainable learning outputs for the young people of the regions. Thanks a lot. I wish good luck to the work of the conference.
Спасибо большое, Зариф. И сейчас
Thank you very much, Zarifa. And now I would like to address the same question to our colleagues from Kyrgyzstan. Tykshishbek Bakitov, Youth Engagement Specialist of UNFPA Kyrgyzstan, Coordinator of SDG Youth Ambassadors Program in Kyrgyzstan. Please, Tykshishbek Bakitov, over to you. How do you work with this issue? Good afternoon, dear colleagues, friends. I'm really glad to see you. And can you see and hear me? Well, great. I'm going to be quite limited of time, but I think that no more than 2 or 3 minutes should be given to each representative of our countries. Yes, I work with the UNFPA and also work with SDG Youth Ambassadors. And I want you to write in the chat some welcome hello in your native language, so that we can know what representative from which countries we have. So just say hello in your language, because we really want to know how many countries we have right now here. I'd like to say that we have achieved a lot, but now we proceeded to the second part of our programs. The first initiative was launched for 2019 up to 2020, and also right now we have proceeded to the second part of the programs. I should say that 30% of our population are young people, and we decided to come up with this program because last year Kyrgyzstan was involved in preparing national review on a volunteering basis, and that is why we decided to create this program. Just like in other countries, I should say that our main goal is to disseminate information about SDGs for a big number of people, and also we want to boost the potential of our young people in terms of our work with SDGs. We want to say that in the first program, a part of our program, so we created a special approach, 34 ambassadors for every single goal, and so they worked on their activities, their part of activities, and through the prism of these activities, we wanted them to boost their knowledge. We also want them to disseminate information about SDGs, and right now we have a certain experience, and we were the first in Kyrgyzstan. We organized a special SDG fair. We also had some satellite events, and together with different organizations, young people created quite very interesting initiatives. And during quarantine, we also had quite a lot of events. We should say that right now we have a big pool of young people who initiated quite a number of events. Speaking about the results of the first year, the first cohort, so we should say that we had 34 young activist ambassadors, two ambassadors for each SDG. We created a special approach. Like I said, ambassadors conducted 173 events, promoted the SDG, reaching to over 20,000 people. And so we also worked with 12 UN agencies in this project, and 3 agencies in the organizing team, and 5 contributing agencies also worked with us, and they provided us with some financial means. Speaking about our work, we changed a little bit the design of our work. We realized that during the first year of our work, we realized that not so many participants were aware of SDGs, and that's why for the second course we decided to launch some additional work, and that was the second round. Nelia Himo was also directly involved in this process. She worked with our young activists and ambassadors, so we can see 2 major parts of our work. We engaged a big number of various people. We now have extensive knowledge of the SDGs. We accumulated a big number of applications to participate on this work, and based on certain criteria, we selected some of them. Of course, we wanted to have some gender balance. We also attracted a number of key organizations, some handicapped people, also people with HIV, and also we should say that the program for this year is based on 5 major things. The first one, a series of online sessions on SDGs with a dedicated instructor. We also had thematic sessions on sustainable development with UN organizations. We conduct trainings on skill development. We worked with social programs, and right now we are selecting 5 active participants out of 20 to nominate them as ambassadors. So we're going to have only 5 ambassadors this year, those who got a highest score. Well, I think that other participants of the program will extrapolate a little bit more on this work. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tin Tishbek. I would like to give the floor to my colleague, to Olga Popova, who is deputy chairman of the National Youth Council in Russia. Olga, good afternoon. Could you say a bit more about your initiatives in Russia? Good afternoon, Valeria. Good afternoon, dear participants. I will go through our major policy steps as to how we implement our policy regarding SDGs in Russia and our work with youth. I should say that this work was fully initiated by young people. In 2016, Youth Society put forward this initiative. So they said it would be nice to have something of this kind at the national level. It would be nice to conduct such a program at the national level, something similar that we have at the United Nations. You know that they have such a program, youth leaders and SDGs, and we wanted to have something similar. So in 2017, they put this initiative forward, and they said that we really want to have it implemented at the national level. We were very much supported by some youth organizations, and our National Youth Council also was one of the front runners who supported this idea. And back then in 2017, we were supported by the UN Informational Center and also Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Russia. And in 2020, we actually started to select young activists or ambassadors for different SDGs. We have now proceeded to the fourth step of this selection process. We have already had three generations of such ambassadors. So right now we are selecting the pool of the fourth generation. And right now we are being supported by a bigger number of different structures and establishments. And apart from UN Information Center, Ministry for Foreign Affairs, we were also supported by the Ministry of Science and Higher Education of the Russian Federation, a federal agency for youth affairs, and also Public Diplomacy Foundation, a foundation named after Mr. Gorchikov. They are all our partners, and together with us, they support activities of SDG youth ambassadors. So on an annual basis, we select 17 people. We also have quite a serious competition or selection process. We have some creative task for them. So every young ambassador has to create a roadmap or a certain plan for his or her activities. And there they're supposed to reflect ideas regarding their plans, their mandates. They have also specified points of growth in the framework of SDGs. Also provide some information about potential projects and also instruments or tools they will be using to achieve this or that goal, and something that they will be using to attract even more young people in this work. When we just started, our major goal was to provide as much information as possible for our young people regarding SDGs. We also wanted them to inform that we have such a document as Agenda 2030, that we have also 17 SDGs, and during the first year, this campaign was more of an information nature, and our ambassadors tried to inform our young people as much as possible. They initiated various projects, and also, I mean, for example, they worked in close cooperation with young people. They invited to join this piece of work. So they were some kind of 17 viruses that contaminated young people all around the territory of the Russian Federation. They tried to put forward the idea that this kind of work was absolutely important. Quite a big number of groups, working groups were created. They initiated various projects, but apart from that, they also participated in different international events. They represented the interest of the Russian Federation at different international youth platforms. But recently we have changed our concept a little bit, and right now we have three major pillars of our program in the framework of our work, and our program is directly linked to that. The first point is the same. The first one is awareness or information, disseminating of this information. It means that we should provide our young people with as much information as possible regarding, I mean, SDGs. The second pillar or point is that it's very important not just to inform young people that we have something of this kind, but we also want to teach them to work with all these things. Just we want to enable them to work with this information further on. And if we work about SDGs promotion at local levels, at the level of the country, well, they have to have information about tools to use to achieve this goal. So we want to train them, to make them prepared for this kind of activities. And the third point or stage is all about large-scale projects, about creating networks, collaboration, about different youth societies or communities involved directly in various projects. So something that has a direct impact on our further endeavors and achievements in the framework of SDGs. This year we have a plan to launch a separate educational program for our ambassadors. So I think that it was particularly important for us that this program, SDGs Ambassadors, became a part part of our national report, official, where we reflect information about our experience and achievements regarding our work with youth. And some of the participants participated in presenting such a report at official level. So in 2 weeks, we're going to have a new pool ambassador. So quite a wide spectrum of work. We'll be working on different projects, activities. We'll be working at various international platforms. And also we want to have a higher level of understanding, of awareness, something that could help us to boost further on our cooperation within CIS countries with different youth organizations working on this matter. So we're going to intensify our work. We'll keep on working in this direction. And just like at the beginning, Mr. Petushkov said, yes, we do really hope that such meetings or some separate meetings that we have within the CIS amongst our young activists or ambassadors will enable us to create a network, a certain community, a platform that will be used as a resource, something that will support us in future in our work. So that will try to be as brief as possible with my speech. Hope it was brief enough. But if you have questions, I'm always open for discussions. You can address your questions in Telegram and our chat. You can send me an email, and I will be happy to provide you with some helpful tips and some other pieces of information regarding this work. Thank you. Thank you very much, Olga. And now let's proceed to the next stage. And so there we'll find out more about ambassadors from different countries, from Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzia, and Russia. Uh, they will talk a little bit about their activities and how they involved and SDG related work and national, global level. Would be nice if you put forward some concrete examples, if you could share some practices with us, something that could be used in different countries and in different contexts. So let's address this issue to Azerbaijan. We are joined today by female and male ambassadors, Aygun Talibova, for example, so SDG 3, Yan Ismailova, SDG 10, and Akbar Jalilov, SDG 14, Youth Ambassador. Guys, are you with us?
Кто первый?
Здравствуйте,
Who will be
Валерия.
the first to speak? Yes, good afternoon, Valeria. Thank you very much, Valeria. If you do not mind, I continue in English.
My name is Aygun Talibova, Sustainable Development Goal 3, Good Health and Wellbeing Youth Ambassador in Azerbaijan. And it's my pleasure to greet you all today. As you may know, the young population of the planet is currently estimated at 1.8 billion people, making it the largest generation of youth the world has ever known. In September 2018, the United Nations Secretary General launched the first ever UN Youth Strategy, Youth 2030, which envisions United Nations that not only works for young people, but with young people to provide a platform for youth to identify challenges and propose creative ideas to shape a better future, ensuring that no one is left behind. And one of the good examples of united and effective work for sustainable development is the Sustainable Development Goals Youth Ambassadors Initiative, that, as was mentioned, is a project jointly implemented by the Ministry of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Azerbaijan and the United Nations Development Program. And keeping in mind that we were only 17 young people, 17 youth ambassadors, with the help and guidance of governmental and non-governmental organizations, we were able to address some aspects of emerging challenges, such as climate change, importance of quality education, good health, well-being, gender equality. And most importantly, we were given a chance to work with disadvantaged and displaced social groups, not only in urban areas, but in rural areas as well. That is globally shown as moving towards achieving SDGs relatively slower, and campaigns and projects were jointly realized to support the implementation of new policies that are aimed to improve people's health and well-being, as well as the reduction of social and economic inequalities primarily faced by vulnerable groups of the population, for them to live independent and dignified lives. That being said, as my experience as SDG Youth Ambassador has shown, significant results can be achieved when we can combine motivation and ideas of use and resources and willingness to help of policymakers and organizations that are interested in enhancing youth participation, in shaping more responsive policies that best support people and planet. Last but not least, I would like to emphasize the role of young people, most of them volunteers, that were among the first responders to the COVID-19 outbreak, and along with the medical emergency staff and at critical sectors. They have worked in front lines and have an essential role in achieving sustainable development goals and bravely addressing emerging health risks. And I would like to thank all the organizers and wish everyone good health and well-being. Thank you.
Спасибо большое. Я так понимаю, у нас следующий посланник из
Thank you very much. As far as I understand, we have the next speaker from Azerbaijan.
Event participants, I greet each of you, and I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to speak at this conference. I'm Akbar Jallo. I'm the youth ambassador for SDG 14, Protect Social Ecosystem in Azerbaijan. First of all, I would like to note that my speech will cover two main issues of the agenda of today's conference. The first is what's the potential of the youth NGOs in CIS countries for the implementation of the 2030 agenda? And the second is what are the challenges of the youth NGOs working to promote the SDGs in the CIS countries? I think that using the activities of the UNPLS to achieve the SDGs is one of the most successful steps in this work. In general, it's always take more energy than the next steps to start in action. The work of skilled and educated personnel who meet the requirements of the modern labor market for SDG goals is invaluable. Given the high potential and energy of young people, and I can say that it's easy to see that the exciting potential is very high. However, the right perspective is always needed to properly assess the potential gained. When the right perspective isn't presented, we block the potential needed to do our job. And in my opinion, in what cases can this situation be encountered? If the relevant state organization, the first station is that when the relevant state organizations along with the NGOs don't make the efforts for SDG proceeding. The second station is that in cases where the private enterprises don't feel the responsibility of the SDG in the procedures. As you know, sustainable development goals are divided into three main areas: the ecological goals, social, and economical. Awareness raising activities can be fully effective in the implementation of some SDGs. However, in addition to propaganda work, real actions are important to achieve the 2030 goals on some SDGs. I can give an example of environmental SDGs. Awareness raising is needed to make people aware of their environmental responsibilities. And real technical procedures are essential to achieve high efficiency on these SDGs. For example, if we want to get the achievement, the desired on goal, for example, SDG 6, 7, SDG 13, 14, 15, they have to take technical steps with the support of public and private institutions, such as protection of ocean and seawater against various pollutions, the use of alternative renewable energy facilities in our infrastructure, and I can give you an example like waste management and etc. Also, taking into account the potential of different social groups, the implementation of procedures based on the responsibility of the SDG will be one of the big steps in achieving the 2030 goals. Distinguished participants of the event, I would like to conclude my speech with two calls from youth and government organizations. Young people working on SDG, believing that we will achieve these goals in the near future, let's show our full potential and separate the propaganda of the SDG to the whole world. My second call to the governmental organization that always support all around development. We are confident that we will create a necessary prospect for young people to achieve these goals of SDG. I wish good luck to the work of conference. Many thanks for your attention.
Спасибо большое. Аян, вам слово.
Thank you
Напоминаю,
very much, Ayana. You have the floor. And I would like to remind you about the timeline. So you have just 2 minutes. Please fit the time. I'll try my best. I would like to welcome everyone, and I'm happy to see familiar faces. My name is Ayan. I'm also ambassador, and I work in Parliament of Azerbaijan and Committee of International Affairs. And this is a very important thing for me since childhood. We all know how discrimination can provide bad impact on the destinies of many people. And I'm a psychologist by education. From my professional position, I see the consequences of inequality, which results in violence, depression, and so on. And that is next to us, that is close to us, and that is related to everyone. There were lots of different meetings, different projects due to which I know lots of people present here. And also there were projects specifically oriented to decrease gender inequality, inclusion, human rights, and so on. I can clearly state that we need, and it's important to have systematic approach. And briefly, with the example of one project, which we implemented in Azerbaijan together with European Association of Psychologists. The project was called Better Together. And this project was oriented to decrease inequality, but the idea and technique of implementation can be used in any theme, in any direction. And well, we worked with teenagers, with school children, and there we had a prepared group, a class. These were people of specific age when their values are just being created, when they are psychologically very flexible, and they can better perceive and they can better react to the information we provided, which can be used on other directions as well. I mean, these factors. And we made trainings on 5 spheres of inequality, workshops in as games or trainings, and we could consider volunteer psychologists or teachers who could be trained theoretically, as we used to do this, and who helped us to do it in other classes. Well, basically, it's not necessary to do it at schools. It can be done at universities and working team. The main thing is to start. As to position of ambassador to decrease inequality, I would like to address to ambassadors of all the directions and to all the young leaders present here. I would like to state that even if the themes or spheres of interest can be different, but rules and tactic is the same. And that is the thing which is very fine. And we think that there are lots of people in the country and in the world and around us. And the idea to teach, to educate is not here because we will not be able to reach everyone. Yes, it is so. However, we should be sometimes this idea deprives us of making actions and thus result in frustration, kill motivation. And so we can start with something small, but the main thing, as I have mentioned, systematic approach. Even if we inspire people, even if we change actions of people, it can result in global changes in society, and that will be our achievement. Within 2.5 years as youth ambassadors, I participated in lots of international meetings, online and offline, and every time we thought about cross-cultural international projects, and even if not everything was implemented properly, I will be very happy if today there will be some offers for ideas for further cooperations. And regardless of whether it's a decrease of inequality or any other theme, I'll be happy to continue our friendship and cooperation. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ayan. And now we move on to Kyrgyz Republic. And so let us listen to the ambassadors there. Janibek Akhmadov, SDG 10 Youth Ambassador. Janibek, please tell us how you participate and how other participants participate and participated in SDG implementation in Kyrgyzstan and globally. Good afternoon, can you hear me? Yes. Yes, perfectly. Let us start. Well, now my colleague Daniel will share his screen with my presentation. Just a second.
У нас была общая презентация.
We had our common presentation. We believed that we will speak all together.
I would like to speak also in English, since everyone speaking English, and it is international conference. My name is Janibek Akhmadov, and I was one of the first SDG ambassadors in my country, and I represented SDG number 10, reducing inequalities. Next slide. We know, as we know, that one third of the Sustainable Development Goals indicators are dedicated to the youth, and it's really important for youth to participate and take part on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And we know that in Kyrgyzstan, like the population is lack of information about Sustainable Development Goals, and youth supposed to involve and take part on achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. And why we are talking about the youth on this slide, we can't see, but we say that youth are the ones who have very innovative ideas. We are the change makers, and we are the leaders, and we have different ideas, and we can communicate and become the bridge between the population and between the government authorities. As it was mentioned before, in Kyrgyzstan, we organized 173 events, and we reached 12, almost 13,000 people. It also involved online events. We were not like only of the presentation in schools and universities, we were trying to make our events very proactive, productive, and we use like info sessions, online flash mobs, workshops, interactive games, interactive lectures, debates, cleanup days, and quiz nights. And here we can see that we organized like different presentation in schools and also in universities. Different different presentations on different topics. Like we also talked about HIV. We also participate in the first climate forum in Kyrgyzstan. Also participated in different events that was organized by different organizations, government authorities, and we also like planted trees. Participated at international conferences like in Azerbaijan. And most importantly, it's really important for us to engage with the local authorities and national government authorities. We were talking how we can contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals. And when we talk about Sustainable Development Goals, we say that SDGs are for everyone, and we cannot be lack of youth shouldn't be left behind. And participating on the program, SDG Ambassadors Program, I understood that leadership, it's not only about words, but leadership is also about taking actions. And you can see that we organized like different multiple events, and we achieved and we have good results. And also our events and our results was included to the National Volunteer Review, and it was presented on the international stage. And at the end, I would like to have with all of you like small activity. Can we snap, finger snaps? So I think our voices, when we are alone, it's very low. But when we will start clapping, our voices will be loud and everyone can hear us. So let's be together, unite, clap, raise our voices, and planet, people, government authorities will hear our voices. Thank you so much.
Спасибо большое, Жаныбек. С нами также...
Thank you very much, Жанбек. We also have Daniel Tsoi with us, participant of SDG Academy 2020-2021, founder of the YLCP Civil Society Platform, UN Youth Delegates. And Daniel, please, over you. Could you please say a few words? Thank you very much, Valeria. Thank you very much for your introduction. Good afternoon, dear friends, dear colleagues. Well, actually, I'm being a little bit nervous because this is my first experience of this nature, but since I'm a representative of young people, I will try to just to show it from different perspective, just to see how we are not just productive, but also well, think also about the joyful side of this matter, because we really enjoy this work. The point is that this program that we are involved in, I mean, also our uh, work with UN structure. This is something that is really important, and it helps us a lot in promoting various ideas. Our colleagues have already mentioned a lot of interesting facts, but like to say that this year we had a very productive stage. First of all, we had a very good program that was implemented together with SDG Academy, and there we had a 3 months program where we trained young people different skills, and now we're about to proceed to the second stage. But we already have 5 ambassadors who are keenly aware of our main issues. They are full of initiatives, of ideas, and I'm quite persuaded so that we will be able to make even a bigger contribution to our common work. And I hope that this year we will achieve even more. And probably, yes, we will achieve even more, even despite COVID-19. As for our activities for 2021, on behalf of youth ambassadors of IGG, well, I said just months ago, we launched a large-scale program, SDG Connect KG, in order to organize different events, and also this is done in order to promote SDG. Usually we, of course, work with young people. This is our main focus, but also we want to attract other people to do that. We have a plan to build some laboratories, also to work in various domains. So we want to keep on working both online and offline in order to cover all the possible stakeholders, all the possible working groups that could make a contribution to our joint work. And yes, our SDG laboratory, like I said, is going to be presented in online and offline game formats. And there you will see a lot of young people, and not only. So it's going to be really interesting, I'm quite sure. And here you can have a very important plan that we have in our minds for sustainable development. We have a project called Sandbox National Program or Platform. So this is a platform that will enable our young people in Kyrgyzstan, and probably not only, also talking about other countries in Central Asia, enable to use this platform in order to launch different youth initiatives. And from our colleagues in Russia, I heard that you already have this kind of platform. You have already launched it, and I would really love to cooperate with you on that matter. And I hope that with help of each other, we will be able to achieve a lot. I mean, with Kyrgyzstan, with Russia, and probably some other countries, we could do a lot. We could really make a difference. We could work as a global community. And I do really hope that on provision that we really work in close cooperation, we will be able to move forward. And I kindly invite you to join this campaign, and I hope that we will foster our cooperation and partnership further on. Thank you very much, Daniel. And now let's move to Russia and give the floor to our Russian ambassadors, find out more about SDGs there. Here we have three ambassadors on behalf of Russia: Polina Varfolomeeva, SDG 1 Youth Ambassador, Nikita Rosov, SDG 2, and Veronika Yakovleva, SDG 8 Youth Ambassador. Guys, please over to you. Who will be the first to speak? So I will be the first to take the floor. Good afternoon, dear colleagues and the gates of our side event at ECOSOC. Well, a lot has been said today about the role of young people. I should say that, yes, it's true, we are the driving force of our society. And also we're kind of a bridge between some governmental structures and our citizens. I would like to say that we can use simple terms to explain some difficult, complicated phenomenon. I would like to say a few words about our initiatives, something that we have launched in order to further work on SDGs. Today, a lot has been said, a bit awareness regarding SDGs, and I absolutely agree with that. That the level of awareness is quite low, and it actually forced us to launch an informational project in Instagram that brought together 12 Russian activists. We decided to work with four regions, and that was our major part of coverage. Our major activities or our work was mostly focused on this awareness and on raising awareness. We make different posts about SDGs, about different national projects, about opportunities for young people, both in Russia and also abroad. So we also organize different quizzes, competitions in order to engage our young people in this work. And it helps us to raise awareness about this issue. And speaking about social media, we are not limited to that. We go further than that. And it's worth mentioning that we work with social protection centers. We collect all the precious and very important things for those in need. And 2 weeks ago, we launched a SDG workshop, and that was kind of a platform. There we had over 100 participants from various countries, so we made it to the international level, and so we managed to come up with international initiatives and projects, and now they can be used by different young people at various levels. It's worth mentioning that we are those who work with the most innovative ideas, with the most innovative projects. That is why I do believe that each of us has to start at the personal level, and after that we will be able to work together, because you should think globally and act at the personal level. I'm ready for cooperation. Thank you very much, Paulina. Probably you could share a link to your project, to your chat, so that guys can sign up and follow your activities. Nikita Rosov, what about you? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. My name is Nikita Rosov. I'm SDG2 Youth Ambassador. If you don't mind, I would like to bring to the screen a small presentation so that you can have visualization of our work. Dear friends, my major project is an enterprise. I am an entrepreneur. This is a socially oriented enterprise, Creamery Milasha in Irkutsk city. This is a city which is located not far from the Baikal lake. And as for this creamery, there they have a particular focus on SDG, and particularly SDG number 2, zero hunger. So the idea to set up such an enterprise first appeared in 2009, when, thanks to a non-commercial organization, I actually come up with this idea. And if I'm not mistaken, also Neu Rahila was also one of those interested in this initiative, and she was one of the stakeholders. So we decided to create a creamery of European type. As for the project that creamery is involved in, first, SDG number 2 means support for medium-sized farms. We organized webinars where we interact with young people first and foremost, and also with people who have their startups in the sphere of agriculture. We explain them how to set up their own enterprise with minimum finances. We inform them about some educational opportunities that we have at the regional level and in Russia in general. We also discuss with them the activities of the Ministry for Agriculture, provide them an information regarding different grants, and so on and so forth. Speaking about food security, we also work on that, but we do it through educational projects. We go to different villages, to different towns, cities, and there we have, for example, meetings with young people, I mean, groups of, for example, 100 people or more, and there we talk with them about first steps that they are supposed to take if they are presented in agricultural sector. The point is that young people really like it when we share our personal experience, when you share information about your development, about your challenges, etc. I try to explain them how to avoid all the problems related to debts or some other financial problems. Or for example, if you know how to make cakes, we explain them where they should register in order to participate in different fairs and also to become a member of some other platforms. And also we're about to launch our own TV show. This is a TV show called My Profession. This is my project that will be done jointly with Artemy Kushnarев. This is a pool of 20 series about professions in demand and opportunities that young people might have. First of all, we started with local formats, and now then we decided to make it to a high level.
And what's especially great, now there are negotiations with the Russia 24 channel about inclusion of this channel in their agenda. And we are finalizing legal issues. We show the pilot show, and the chief editor liked it. And if we finalize legal issues, I think that program will be within half a year. It will be on air in Russia 24 in Irkutsk region. Another thing is that provide food products for people who are in need. COVID-19 pandemic gave us a lot of work in this respect, and we were the first wave or entrepreneurs in Irkutsk region included into All Russia program. We together, the small businesses, we started to prepare food product sets for people who could not afford. For instance, one vulnerable group of people are pensioners with asthma who could not leave their homes, who couldn't leave their houses, and we provided them with food. And then these actions became popular all over Irkutsk regions, and by summer, large companies joined us. One large trade network provided for the hospital, and another entrepreneur re-equipped his restaurant for production of hot lunches for doctors. We, in turn, uniting in small business groups in summer, together with volunteer centers, we brought food to veterans of the Great Patriotic War. And in autumn, we provided food for doctors as a gift. And mostly it was moral support because they also faced bullying. And this is a very hard profession from moral perspective. And I provide an idea of support and developing social responsible business. I greatly respect volunteer movements. And as it was rightly mentioned by Nele, volunteers are very important, but there is one disadvantage. When a volunteer is like 25 or 30 years old, people have families, and of course, the forefront for them becomes the material issues, that is providing for the family, and they often leave volunteer activity. And social entrepreneurship and social responsibility of business is convenient because you can implement project in future with your own money. And at the same time, you can provide for yourself. And these social projects are also very useful for business because they attract a lot of public attention, and business is interested in reproducing new and new projects. Thank you very much for your attention. And you can see our Instagram page to get to know about the project. And if you create dear ambassadors, any projects at Baikal Lake region, I will be happy to cooperate with you. We are not far, and I'll be happy to welcome you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Nikita. Veronica, you have the floor. Please be as brief as possible because we are pressed
Да,
for
всем
time.
добрый день. Я очень
Yes,
рада
hello
присутствовать на
everyone. I'm
сегодняшнем
very happy to
мероприятии.
be
Я
at
являюсь
this
молодежным
event.
посланником
I'm
Цели
a
устойчивого
youth
развития номер
ambassador
8.
SDG
Я думаю,
8.
что это одна
I
из
believe
наиболее
that
важных
this is one
целей,
of the most
которые были
important
задействованы в прошлом
goals
году,
that
поскольку из-за
were
пандемии
discussed
очень
during the
много
previous
проблем
year.
было у
As
людей
due
с
to
работой,
pandemic,
очень много
there
проблем
were
было в
lots of
странах с
problems with
экономическим ростом.
employment, with
И я
economical
рада,
growth in different
что
countries,
в
and
рамках
I'm
моей
happy
организации, в
that
рамках других
youth
организаций мы
within this
увидели
organization
действительно много
we
реально
could
действующих
see
проектов, которые
lots of
помогают как
truly
раз-таки с
active
поиском работы, с
projects which
развитием,
help
в
to
том
find
числе и
work
молодых ребят.
and
Кратко
to
расскажу о тех
develop young
проектах, которые
people.
я
I'll briefly
реализую,
speak
оставлю
about the
свои
projects
контакты,
I
если
implement.
кому-то
I will leave my
захочется
contacts if
поподробнее о них
you
узнать, чтобы никого
want to
не
get to know
задерживать.
about them in detail,
Собственно,
just
я
not
являюсь
to
управляющим директором сообщества молодых
keep it
профессионалов
too long.
«Молодежная
I'm director
финансовая
of
лига».
community of young
Мы
professionals,
объединяем молодых
and we
финансистов, но теперь
unite
уже не
young
только финансистов
financial
во всей России,
people,
для
but
того,
not
чтобы
only
помогать им в их
all over
профессиональном и
Russia, in
социальном
order to
росте.
help them in
И
professional and
помимо
social growth,
возможности реализовываться на
but
работе, также
for
делать
opportunity
какие-либо
to
общественные проекты.
be
Эти
successful at the
проекты у нас
work, also
бывают
to
как
implement public projects. So
внутрироссийские,
this
так и
project can be
международные.
inside
Например,
Russia and
мы
also
уже
at
2 года
international
делаем
level. For instance, for 2 years, we
Европейско-российскую
are making
молодежную международную
European
конференцию с
Russia
приглашением топовых
Youth
спикеров вплоть до
international
руководителей
conference with
государств.
the invitation of top
И
speakers up
также
to
сейчас в
the
этом
heads
году
of
будем
the
делать
states,
российско-китайскую
and we will
аналогичную
also
конференцию,
make
поэтому если
similar
кому-то интересно
Russian-Chinese
подключиться к
conference.
этим
So if
проектам,
you are
буду очень рада. У
interested
нас
in
как раз-таки
joining
готовы
this project,
собираются
I'll be very
команды.
happy.
Что
We are just
касается непосредственно цели
assembling the
устойчивого
team.
развития,
As to
то мы
the
проводим лектории
sustainable
по
development
финансовой
goal,
грамотности. Я
we
считаю, что
provide
это одна из
lectures on
наиболее важных
financial
целей для
education.
того,
I believe
чтобы
this is one of the most important
экономический рост
parts
не
in order
только внутри
to reach
государства, но и
economical growth,
в
not only
семейном и
inside the
личном
country, but
бюджете
also
каждого
in
человека.
family and personal
А
budget of
также
every
мы
person. And
запустили
also,
проект,
we have
но вот он
started
сейчас
a
еще идет,
project,
поскольку
and it
пандемия
is
в
still
разных
on
странах сейчас
as a
находится на
pandemic
разном
is
стадии
at different
развития, и
levels
локдаун до
in
сих пор
different
здесь
countries, and
действует,
the
но мы пытаемся
lockdowns are still
проанализировать
active in
меры
some countries,
поддержки
but we're
бизнеса
trying to
и
analyze
граждан
measures of business
в
support
период пандемии в разных
and
государствах
citizen
и
support
подумать, каким
in
образом
different countries, and
государство,
to think
дать какие-то
in
свои
which
собственные
way
молодежные
we can
предложения в
provide
рамках
our
данной
own
тематики для
youth
того, чтобы
offers
помочь
within this
странам
theme in
выбраться из
order to help
экономического кризиса.
countries
Поскольку у нас
overcome
здесь
economical
присутствуют
crisis.
представители
And
других
we have
государств, я тоже
representatives of
была бы
other
рада,
countries
если бы
here.
они
I would
подключились к
also
этому
be happy for
проекту,
them to
поскольку
join this project,
мы хотим
as
анализировать
we
меры
would like
поддержки в
to
абсолютно
analyze
разных
measures of
государствах,
support in
возможно,
different
выявить какие-то
countries, possibly
закономерности, и с точки
identify
зрения
some
молодежи тоже
regularities,
здесь
and from
сказать
the point of
какое-то
view of
слово,
young
помочь
people, also to
государствам
say a word
преодолеть
and to
экономический
help
кризис и
the country to
приблизиться к
overcome economic
экономическому росту,
crisis and
который
to
как
help
раз-таки
business to
подразумевает
grow
цель устойчивого
economically, which
развития
really
номер 8.
implements SDG
Очень рада сегодня со всеми
implemented
здесь
by SDG 8. I'm
познакомиться.
happy to meet
Не буду
everyone
действительно
here.
никого больше
I'll
задерживать,
not
оставлю
take
все
any
свои
more
контакты
time.
и
I will
надеюсь на
leave
то,
my
что
contact, and
несмотря
I do
на то, что
hope
наш
that
период
regardless of the fact that
с должности молодежных
our
посланников
period
ЦУР
in this
заканчивается, да, как уже говорили коллеги, наши
position
через
is
2 недели у
being
нас будут новые
over. After
посланники.
2
Я
weeks,
надеюсь,
we'll
что мы
have
все
new
останемся на связи
ambassadors. I
и
hope that we'll
будем
stay
делать
connected
новые
and
совместные
we'll make
проекты. Всем
new
спасибо
joint
большое.
projects. Thank you very much.
Спасибо большое, Вероника.
Thank you, Veronica. Thanks to all the ambassadors from the three countries who shared their actions, and thanks to coordinators. And we decided that the issue about prospects of cooperation will be moved to the last unit, where in the format of open microphone we will discuss some remaining issues. And now we move on to the next block of our unit. And we have here with us, as I have already mentioned, our colleagues not only from CIS countries but also from different parts of the world. For instance, our friends and colleagues from sunny Zimbabwe. Last year, they were inspired by the example of CIS countries, and they decided to implement the youth ambassador in their country, and they adapted it for their reality, for their context. And today we have a chairperson of Zimbabwe Youth SDGs, and his name is Jasper Marguana, and I would like to give the floor to Jasper to share his experience in why they decided to implement this program in their country and how they implement this project. Jasper?
Thank you so much, Valeria. It's a great pleasure to be on this platform today. Like already introduced by Valeria, my name is Jasper with the Zimbabwe Youth and SDGs. We were very much excited and very much really intrigued with the Youth Ambassadors Program, which was being run by the National Council of Russia and other countries in Europe, and we thought very much that it could be something that could be very useful in Zimbabwe, because we are a non-profit making organization which seeks to look at the active participation of young people towards the implementation of global goals. So we've been reaching out to the National Youth Council of Russia in collaborations and in partnership to ensure that this program moves on board. But before, maybe I would share maybe what I think might be the difficulties that they've been facing maybe as young people in different areas or different countries when it comes to maybe active participation on global goals. I think some of the challenges that we have issues to do with Africa is different from the way you guys are situated. Africa is a bit situated in Africa, and not only that, it's also third world continent where poverty is very much rampant. So in terms of priorities, issues to do with awareness as well as issues to do with capacity building and training might not be a priority in terms of what the people need in this country, because people are actually be looking at issues to do with the bread and butter issues and health. So we think an issue of inclusion, poverty becomes one of the critical aspects which has been actually affecting us to really prioritize the implementation of SDGs, because some of the issues there which are climate change, some of the issues which are peace, justice, and strong institutions, industrialization, innovation, might be really not be seen as a priority. Another issue as well that we thought the Youth Ambassadors Program should actually bring on board is also youth exclusion in developmental projects. We thought bringing this aspect on board is going to really have an impact towards youth inclusion in the developmental agenda, because we believe any developmental agenda that excludes the youth is not sustainable. So the Youth Ambassadors SDG program, we are looking at it to also bring an inclusion aspect, whereby we are going to be talking to our parliamentarians. We need these youngsters to be known by the people who are making the laws, the government itself, youth associations, religious leaders, traditional leaders. They need to really look at these young people, because we believe exclusion is also an important aspect and also a barrier towards the implementation of SDGs. You also look at unemployment. Young people also look at SDGs and think it's an opportunity for them for employment, but it's not really so easy, because we believe in SDGs, the employment aspect is hidden in the concepts and programs that should also be facilitated to ensure that we all attain Agenda 2030. So it's another aspect in Africa. A lot of young people are not employed. So you find that really when you're looking out for young people to engage, at times they always ask you, where's the money? Does the program really have money? Is there an employment opportunity? But we've been teaching our youngsters that with the programs that the SDGs are bringing, we need you to create your own employment and also create employment for others through sustainable ways which are provided for by the Sustainable Development Goals. Also issues to do with climate change, and we can't take away that it's also been a challenge to our youngsters, not only in Zimbabwe or in Africa, but also across the continent. climate change has been happening in Zimbabwe. We also have our own cyclone Idai, which was on record, where a lot of people really passed away because of a cyclone that hit part of the eastern highlands of Zimbabwe. We are still working on a recovery project to that environment. So climate action is actually an important thing. And we believe our young people already have been doing quite a lot in terms of awareness and projects. And when this ambassador program is launched, we see a lot of young people really campaigning for the climate action aspect. We also look at the conflict and humanitarian aid. Another aspect that also feel as young people that needs to be addressed to ensure that we really implement the SDGs properly is in terms of aid that is coming to us as third world countries. We need aid that really comes through to fund sustainable projects that also empower the people in communities, can they be rural communities or urban areas, to be able to really sustain themselves in the long run. Because just aid on its own for you to just live today and start asking yourself, how am I going to survive tomorrow, might not be enough. So we're also looking at synergies within the international community, bringing aid in Africa to ensure that whatever aid they bring in should be aid that is really turned towards sustainable support for the communities, because it's not really good for us to be writing every day to say we are requesting food for today, we are requesting food for tomorrow. So I think that's another aspect we should look at as young people, because for our older, our senior citizens, they might be okay with that because they might not be there in the next 20 years. But for us, we need something that is very much sustainable. So humanitarian aid is very critical, but we're looking at issues to do with the sustainability. And maybe another question that I would also look at is also maybe look at the best practice to also engage the youth. Voluntarism it's been an aspect that we're really teaching our youngsters in Zimbabwe to say voluntarism is where everything starts. For you to be able to be an ambassador of SDGs, you need to volunteer first, because you don't look at the money, but you look at the job and the impact that you're going to do. Look at the people. We are there to serve the people and change the people's lives, especially those that come from our communities. So it's something that we have done. We've also been working on a curriculum, which we're also going to be shared with the National Youth Council of Russia and other partners to say, is curriculum okay for our young ambassadors who are coming on board, to see if it's something really they can be then groomed to ensure that when they come on board, they're not looking at the money aspect, they're also looking at making a change and also empowering their fellow youngsters. And maybe another question, maybe the last question, the second question from the last, which is what approaches and forms of cooperation between youth organizations should be developed in order to involve youth in the implementation of SDGs. What we've tried to do here in Zimbabwe, we've tried to reach out to the parliament, we've tried to reach out to all the important stakeholders of the land, including the Youth Council, so that they can consider and understand where we are coming from and where we're going from, and also the need for them to see that we are here to push and promote the developmental agenda of the nation. So we are European religious leaders that are quite very important here in Zimbabwe and Africa at large. Our traditional leaders who are chiefs, they also play an important role, because you can't really access rural youth without their assistance, because you cannot really operate in areas where they control when you don't have their buy-in. So those are some of the practices that we've been doing here. We've been coming up with MOUs with different organizations, different sponsors, different partners for different aspects, which we believe to be able to really provide sustainable partnerships between us and those institutions, including the UN system itself, the United Nations, Zimbabwe, including the Residence Office and the UNDP. They play a critical role in what we've been doing. And maybe lastly is how to strengthen open dialogue, interaction, and cooperation of various stakeholders and partners within the region. This is very key. We've started our SDGs, Youth SDGs webinars, where we're inviting people from the region in different areas, and we are looking forward to SDG number 2. And I think we should be reaching out to you guys in Russia to say, can you have a panelist on this? I think this is very important, where we are going to learn from each other, because no country can operate in an island as an island. And we believe Russia has been there where we ought to be as Zimbabwe, where we're looking to come in and become. So I think generally this is what we are doing, and want to appreciate the support from the National Youth Council of Russia. And we believe together 2030 agenda is a reality. Post-COVID-19, we need to work together and promote the active participation of young people towards the development agenda. Any development agenda that excludes the youth is not sustainable. Thank you so much, Valeria.
Thank you so much, Jasper. I fully agree with what you just said. And I think what we're doing right now with you guys is a really good example that can be useful to everyone, all the international friends who are watching us and listening to us here today. Probably they were wondering all this time, why does it matter that in the CIS region there is this SDG Youth Ambassadors program? But this is a really tangible example what you you can do in your country to promote SDGs. You just take a successful program from one region or one country and implement it in your country, but of course adapting it to your context and your realities and your country, and maybe even improving it. And with this fruitful exchange of good practices, we can help each other and we can unite our efforts to go further in reaching the SDGs. Thank you, Jasper. With this, I would like to give the floor to our next guest and the expert, who is the chair of the NAYORA, that is the National Youth Council of Azerbaijan, Azur Aliyev.
Dear Valeria, thank you very much for perfectly moderating. Before I get started, I would like to express my deepest appreciation to the National Youth Council of Russia for opening up an important issue during the ECOSOC Youth Forum. On behalf of NAYORA, National Youth Council of Azerbaijan, I sincerely thank all high-level representatives from the CIS countries working towards the SDGs at local and global level, and I'm pleased to be able to present the National Youth Council of Azerbaijan. We have been established in 1995, and NAYORA is the one and only confederation of the youth organizations in the country. Starting with just 11 youth organizations, until now, we are uniting 137 youth organizations under our umbrella in the capital, at the same time in the regions of Azerbaijan. We consider as our main task to improve the coordination of the activities of member youth organizations, establishing an inclusive environment for their development, and working towards the integration of member NGOs at the regional, local, national, and international levels, and finally act to protect youth rights. Now let's take a look to what extent NAYORA is involved in UN and SDGs. I would like to highlight that as Youth Council, we have been elected a full-fledged member of the ECOSOC Youth Forum, UN Conference on Economic and Social Council, since 2002. This consultative status provides NAYORA with the opportunity to make our voice heard at the UN level. Every year we participate in the ECOSOC Youth Forum in New York before the pandemic, and now we are here in an online format. Unfortunately, we are joining online this year, but we are happy to see all of you here and hope in let's say in a short time, this pandemic will be end when we will go to our traditional events. So in 2019, NAYORA, from let's say last 5 years, NAYORA is working closely with SDGs in the implementation process of SDGs in our country as civil society organization with its member organizations. In 2019, we conducted a survey, extended survey, in which almost 10,000 young people responded in Azerbaijan with our member NGOs. The goal of the survey was to find out if young people have enough information about SDGs. With the result, we have observed that young people are more likely interested in quality education and gender equality, and we selected SDG 3rd, 4th, 5th, 8th SDGs as our strategy. The survey was followed by trainings in 5 districts, 4 districts of Azerbaijan, and with the final reporting conference with the participation of governmental bodies, stakeholders, and for sure the youth and civil society organizations. Although the pandemic had now having even a huge impact on youth mobility, we as NAYORA didn't stop our activities towards SDGs and transformed our activities into digital formats. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we have collaborated with UNFPA, UN Women, UNICEF in Azerbaijan very closely. With UNFPA and UN Women, we have raised awareness of young fathers on responsible fatherhood by visiting underrepresented regions of Azerbaijan and developed PCA videos to showcase what is the importance of responsible fatherhood by social media campaigns. With technical support of UNICEF, we are implementing even now the longest project of NAYORA ever, the local youth advisory councils in the far regions of Azerbaijan under the local authorities. And this project is quite, let's say, long but meaningful, as young people in the far regions taking place in decision-making process with the municipalities, with the executive powers of their regions. And well, there are hundreds of activities that we have implemented with the United Nations and even towards the SDGs, implementation of the SDGs. But I don't want to take too much of your time. The most important thing that we take into account is applying the concept of think global, act local in our daily activities and behaviors. We consider gender equality in each project. We consider being environmentally friendly while implementing our projects with our member NGOs. In addition, we do trash the campaigns as much as we have time around the seaside and beach of the Caspian Sea to protect our friends in the seas and oceans. We are open and looking for more sustainable collaborations with national youth councils and NGOs and youth in Europe and CIS countries. Thank you very much for your attention and wishing good luck. Thank you.
Да, спасибо большое.
Thank you very much, Azar. Thank you very much. I should say that that was quite a useful experience, something that you shared that's absolutely precious, and I am completely persuaded that participants will be able to implement that in practice. We would like to proceed to the Secretary General of the National Youth Council of Moldova, Roman Banari. Roman, please, over to you. Could you please tell us a few words about your National Youth Council and how you work with SDGs, with promoting SDGs in Moldova and at the international level? Good afternoon, dear colleagues. I'm really happy to be here and to see each of you, just to share our experience, to say a few words about our activities. As for our organization, yes, we were involved in quite a number of initiatives, and of course, we had a lot of goals ahead. We understand that's one of our major goals, of course, was also promoting SDGs. But at the same time, we are very proud to say that we also had some other projects as well. I would like to share some pictures, some slides with you. So this project that was implemented last year. Here you can see something that was organized by the National Youth Council, and there we attracted quite a big number of young people and various processes. We worked with global goals. So if you don't mind, here I would like to start speaking in English. That will be easier for me.
We had a project where we promote youth participation in promotion of National Voluntary Review Report, where Moldova reported first time at UN high-level forum on our progresses on implementation of SDGs. Here we promoted our project with support of UNFPA, UNICEF, and many other actors who helped us, but definitely here we have some main partner, including the government, because without involvement of our government, we do not succeed to have our voices so heard in the national process. Even today, our government is proud about our contribution in this evaluation process. So as campaign, we had a goal to promote SDG goals among young people across whole Moldova. Here we participate in 22 raions of the country from 32. So we can suppose that we cover at all regions through all our activities. This is the activity in the government where we launched this campaign with participation of all stakeholders, young people across Moldova. This campaign actually was one very inclusive one, plus we tend to involve even people from vulnerable groups, so we have with disability and so on. So we tend to promote that no one is left behind according to SDGs principles. This is some ideas which we bring related to this campaign, engagement, national review obligation of a state, after which we accepted to being evaluated at UN for the implementation of SDGs. Related to our actions, we had like a conference on SDGs during 3 days. Young people and stakeholders worked on planning of main actions under the project and how they can be involved in this. After this, we will organize 22 regional consultation and trainings in the Youth Center of Moldova related to SDGs. And actually, we helped young people to understand how they can be involved in monitoring of SDGs and to promote them through their activities and social media channels. After this, we organized one contest related to youth engagement and monitoring the process through the photo. And here we selected 17 SDG media ambassadors. Here will be presented including the results of this campaign. It was one actually very visionary campaign where young people share their ideas related to SDGs impact on local level and how they reflect localization and the effectiveness of localization of SDGs in Moldova. Also, we made some regional consultation with young people in order to prepare our report, alternative report for our VNR process, where we as young comes with one complementary report to the governmental one. And we have our own report on SDGs and their impact on young people from Moldova. Also, we had 2 conferences, one presentation the results of report and main challenges and recommendations which comes from the young people. Also, we had presentation of whole campaign. Besides this, we had including good idea, but it was lost as COVID impact. Actually, I speak about SDG Youth Academy, but unfortunately due to COVID, we managed this on online version, and due to online I can assess that we do not succeed to reach out our impact which we expected in fact. But still, I suppose what we managed to raise awareness and to ensure that young people participating in academia are very well capacitated in SDGs based on the each P in part. So we had 7 trainings, including TOT, one promotion of SDGs. Here is some visual ideas on how we manage this activity on local level. This is the results of our contest, photo contest, one vision of young people related to SDGs and so on. They had a lot of idea, and this I will leave in the comment in order to show exactly how it works and how our young people see the problems related to SDGs in Moldova. This was another activity which we do not succeed to implement in practice, but still we receive support from our UN agency in order to translate the game Imagine 2030, which is the game which allows us to monitor and to evaluate SDG implementation in the country and to establish the priorities for future. Unfortunately, due to COVID, we do not succeed to implement this in practice, but still we have a lot of time in the future in order to apply this game, in order to establish our visionarity on SDGs and how we can push up this in Moldova. Also, we participate in VNR Lab, which is a session with participation with a lot of international participants. And here we also succeed to promote our idea as a young generation and how we promote our campaign and our vision related to SDGs and how they could be implemented and localized in Moldova. Actually, this one is our complementary report on youth and SDGs. Hopefully, due to the government involvement in this campaign, we succeed to have youth boxes in the governmental report. So our voices are present, including in this report, and all who succeed to see in the report of government submitted to UN could see, including the EU vision on SDGs. This was related to our SDG Academy, and here I would like to add some additional steps and way to forward in order to ensure full implementation of SDGs. From our perspectives and interests, we try to promote meaningful youth participation without tokenism and so on. And we promote meaningful participation of young people, and we require from local authorities to engage more as possible young people in decision-making process. We advocated for implementation of co-management structure on local level. Hopefully, we succeed to promote this on the agenda of government with support of Ministry of Education, which deal with portfolio on youth. Also, we succeed to promote SDGs implementation through the program Youth Delegate to UN, where we develop together with Ministry of Education one complex program where young delegates will have a portfolio including to promote SDGs in Moldova. Hopefully, these are the projects which we succeed to promote, and we believe that through the meaningful youth participation, we will ensure that all people are connected to participation and will have their voices present in all decision-making process. Thanks.
Спасибо большое, Роман.
Thank you very much, Roman. And that was a very interesting speech to listen to what youth organizations in Moldova are doing for promoting SDGs. And I'm firmly convinced that these practices can be also applied in other countries. And I think that we'll continue cooperation along some of those. And if you decide to arrange a program, Youth Ambassadors of SDG in Moldova, you know where to address and whom can share experience in this. Both ambassadors from Russia and other CIS countries will be ready to help you in this process. Of course, thank you, thank you. Yes, and at that we finish. No sound from the speaker. Звука нет. Звука нет. Valeria, your mic is off. Thank you. At that, we finish our panel discussion with the invited experts, and we have 5 or 7 minutes in order to listen to our participants. If you have something to add, something they would like to share with everyone, and the questions that we have in our agenda, this is number 1. What are the prospects for cooperation of youth at CIS region within the frames of SDGs achievements, representative of organizations, participants? What are the needs for youth NGOs working to promote SDGs at CIS space? What prevents youth from active participation in reaching global agenda? What are the most effective practices of youth work and youth policy with regard to engaging young people in the implementation of SDGs, which have not been mentioned yet? you can share with us, and also how can we strengthen open dialogue, interaction and cooperation of various stakeholders and partners within the frames of the region, as well as with the other regions and at the global level to reach SDGs. And I see that we already have raised hands, lots of raised hands. So let us start with Yulia. Yulia, just you have 2 minutes. And this time we will check the time. 2 minutes maximum. You have the floor. Thank you very much, Valeria. Can you hear me? Is it all right? Yeah. So I'll try to fit. Yes, a lot has been already said. First of all, I would like to introduce myself. I represent Financial University at the government of the Russian Federation, scientific and educational institution, and I'm within the Young Scientists Council. Well, I will not repeat, as lots of aspects on youth engagement in SDGs have already been mentioned today. However, I would like to mention another aspect of youth engagement, not only via NGOs and public organizations, but also via university science. Also through such organizations as I represent, via Council of Young Scientists. These organizations exist at all the key scientific and educational institutions of our country and CIS countries, and also at academic institutions which are included into the system of Academy of Science of Russia, again, our neighbors. Such a huge reserve can be brought by implementing and engaging this organization. These are not public organizations directly, but people working there are, so to speak, budget employees. They are not public people. At the same time, it's also important because it can give impetus for the reason that the members of these organizations are altogether beginning teachers at universities. They have access to youth. They have big coverage. They have dozens and hundreds of young people to communicate with. And according to legislation, they are also young people. It means that even though they are no longer students, but young scientists and young teachers, this is the person who is related to young people and can provide impact on big amount of students via own courses that he or she teaches, and also educate people as related to SDGs. And I would like to briefly mention that it's possible to see the difference in terminology. In this or that way, lots of universities in our country work at SDGs. Unfortunately, it is called in a different way. There are some author approaches in solving the same problems. They are accumulated in universities, but as the very terminology is different, here we need to have systematic approach on reformatting of the research being made and to bring them for each of SDGs. And if this work is completed, we'll see that for many SDGs, we have something to offer at CIS and global level. Well, I tried to be as brief as possible. Thank you, Valeria. Thank you very much, Yulia. You have fitted the time. Great.
And now I see that we have a hand from an international representative from Jordan, Sinan Amarne. Please, the floor to you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sinan Amarne. I'm a current member of the Jordanian Youth Parliament. I was actually glad that I've heard everyone, and especially the members of the CIS and the National Russian Youth Council, as you stated, as all of us stated, that COVID had given us an opportunity to stand along with each other as international students and international citizens. I think now that us as international citizens, we need to stand along and stand with each other in order to prevent any crises that the world could face in the near future, such as food security, education issues, and many more issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sinan. I see there is one more hand from Tinsizbek.
Могу говорить, слышно?
Can I speak? Can you hear me? Hello, everyone, once again, and my offer is very brief. I would like to offer to arrange accumulation of data related to sustainable development goals and promotion of our programs at CIS space. And I believe that there is School of Sustainable Development. That means an open school of sustainable development. And at that platform, we could also use this as a way to accumulate data for us to have a common plan so that we could implement the ideas and know what happens in our countries, regardless of the way that we have communication established. We have not enough data. Thank you. Thank you very much. I hope that finally I will know how to pronounce your name, which is very complicated for me. I'm sorry about that. So, dear friends, anybody else would like to comment or to ask a question, so to share some thought? Nikita, please, you have the floor. Dear friends, I would like to share my experience regarding promotion of SDGs in regions. There was an issue of how to engage business and how to attract governmental employees to the theme of sustainable development. The thing is that many of those orient at the agenda of the president, and SDGs are not always related to that. And in practice, the result was achieved by negotiations when I explained that following, namely SDGs, in our format helps to establish partnership relations. It helps in particular in the sphere of tourism, and now sustainable development goals are most actively implemented in business. And in the Russian Federation at present, I know that for sustainable development goals, there are such projects done by companies as Sberbank, MTS, and others. And in the nearest future, I think that the number of businesses involved will grow. So I suggest to arrange negotiations this way, to speak about SDGs as new opportunities, because in particular in business, they will ask you, why do we need this? Why does our business need this? And this is kind of subculture of business, and now it is considered to be prestigious to follow SDGs. And soon I believe that we'll see that from big business, this culture will go down to small businesses, and soon lots of companies will start speaking this language. Thank you.
Да, спасибо большое, Никита. Действительно.
Thank you very much, Nikita. Yes, you were absolutely right. Very good idea. Well, right now in Russia we have this kind of trend, and it's gaining momentum. It's already the case in Western countries. Yes, in Russia we already have some small businesses working on sustainable brands and sustainable development goals. Well, I think that we will see that fully implemented in the near future soon, but we should just keep a very close eye on that and should do our best to do this work by 2030. And so, since we don't have any other people wanting to ask the question, then it's time to finalize our session. Yes, we are a lot of exceeded our time limits, but we have something to share, and sometimes we don't have enough time to express our opinions. I would like to thank all our friends from CIS and also from some other countries on our planet for your participation, for your active part in our session. I do really hope that this session was really useful for you and interesting. Probably you also use some of the contacts in the future, and you can continue interaction in the chat. And if you are not there yet, you can ask organizers to be included. I think that could work as a platform for us in the future. For example, speaking about Zimbabwe, just like this, we started to interact within United Nations. It's this kind of a platform where we found a lot in common and we decided to cooperate. So that is basically it. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. Good evening, good day. Wish you, I mean, all the best. Keep in touch, and we're always open for interaction and cooperation. Thank you.